Senator Dick Durbin's remarks are a scathing and sobering reminder of how far we've strayed from the principles that are supposed to define justice and democracy in America. Durbin said, "A president who has turned the Department of Justice into a personal weapon, a shield for friends, and a sword against enemies." When he mentioned Trump pardoning Changpeng Zhao, the founder of Binance, who pleaded guilty to money laundering, the implications were chilling. It wasn't simply a questionable pardon, it was a transaction, a $2 billion investment into the Trump family's crypto venture in exchange for clemency. Even conservative outlets couldn't spin this as anything but corruption in broad daylight.
President Trump has turned federal law enforcement into a shield for his friends' and allies' misconduct and a sword to attack his political opponents. Example, President Trump recently pardoned the founder of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, Changpeng Zhao, who pled guilty to money laundering in 2023. But of course, in the big money world, there's always more to the story. It just so happens that Binance hosts the Trump family's crypto platform, known as World Liberty Financial, through which Trump and his family have made more than $5 billion. More than $5 billion. While Mr. Zhou was seeking a pardon, Binance accepted a $2 billion investment in a World Liberty token, essentially a $2 billion deposit for the Trump family's cryptocurrency schemes. Even the conservative National Review said that the pardon was, quote, stunning in its shamelessness, recklessness, and moral inversion. But when he was asked about the pardon this week, in an interview with 60 Minutes, the president couldn't remember. He said, "I know nothing about it. I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are, because it's probably a great industry, crypto." This kind of blatant corruption and self-dealing used to provoke outrage by colleagues on both sides of the aisle. But so far, all we get are crypto crickets. I'm sure my Republican colleagues who are so outraged that President Biden might have used an auto pen, like many presidents before him, will be just as upset that President Trump doesn't know anything about pardoning this crypto criminal. But there's no better example of President Trump's weaponization of justice than his effort to rewrite the history of January 6th. On his first day in office, the president issued a full and unconditional pardon to nearly 1,600 January 6 rioters, including more than 600 charged with assaulting or impeding law enforcement. Standing in the back of the room are people who are keeping us safe. They are people who were assaulted on January 6 by rioters who have now been unconditionally pardoned by President Trump. Next to his political appointees, the Justice Department led an unprecedented purge of career prosecutors and FBI agents simply because they worked on the investigation of January 6. That's all it took. Then Attorney General Bondi hired a January 6 rioter, Jared Weiss, as a senior official at Department of Justice, even though Mr. Weiss was filmed urging his fellow rioters to kill police officers defending the Capitol on January 6. This is what Ed Martin, the failed U.S. Attorney nominee, who's now a senior Department of Justice official, meant when he said, quote, "No MAGA left behind." Now President Trump is seeking $230 million of taxpayers' money from the Justice Department, claiming he was wrongly prosecuted, despite evidence of his efforts to interfere in the 2020 election. So while American people grapple with inflation and rising health insurance costs, the president wants $230 million in taxpayers' dollars. At the same time, the full might of federal law enforcement is being directed at states and cities that just didn't happen to vote for President Trump. One of them is my home state. So let me tell you what's going on with Operation Midway Blitz in the city of Chicago, in case you missed it. Yesterday was a banner day for the ICE agents. They had a daring raid in hot pursuit of President Trump's worst of the worst criminals. Remember, those are the targets, the worst of the worst? They made a daring raid on a preschool without permission or a warrant to arrest one of the teachers. The children in that school, all under the age of 6, were, according to one parent of a 3-year-old, crying, terrified, and huddled together as the ICE agents tried to apprehend this one teacher. To do it in a place where children are with complete disregard for what they see, one parent said, "There's no low these people won't stoop to." And what do we know about the terrorist target? Well, the ICE Dream Team successfully apprehended one, in their estimation. School officials, it turns out, report the woman who cares for infants at the school had work authorization and had just undergone a background check. Meanwhile, the federal courts continue to monitor and limit the outrageous activities of the Chicago ICE Dream Team. Federal agents are trampling on the constitutional rights of my constituents, racially profiling and arresting U.S. citizens simply because they're Hispanic or speak Spanish, zip-tying and traumatizing innocent children, and tear-gassing journalists, pastors, and police officers. Instead of addressing these violations of law, White House advisor Stephen Miller and Deputy Attorney General Blanche are threatening to prosecute my state's governor with baseless claims that he could be arrested for, quote, seditious conspiracy. So what are we going to do about this? The Senate Judiciary Committee has an obligation to conduct oversight. And let me say a word about Jack Smith. I'm interested in why senators turned up on the document that you released. I don't know the circumstances, but we've debated it here in the committee 3 or 4 times, asking basic questions. Why were these senators on this list? There is one way to get to the bottom of this, and it's very simple. Subpoena Jack Smith. Put him under oath and put him a chair in front of us to answer those questions. Just that simple. And he's offered to come. And yet, he's not being called. Perhaps there's an explanation for it. But I think we should call an official timeout on senators commenting on this matter, so long as we won't bring Mr. Smith here under oath to answer our questions. He's willing to do it. There's no excuse he should be. And I might add, too, it's time for DHS Secretary Noem to take time from her glossy promo campaign in Chicago to come and testify under oath before this committee as well. I've been on this committee for more than 20 years. I have never seen the level of obstruction that we're witnessing with this administration. Never, not even close. We must call Secretary Noem under oath, bring Jack Smith here under oath, let him answer our questions. That isn't very complicated. In fact, it usually is the custom of the committee to be our assignment under the Constitution. Mr. President, I yield.
This isn't some fringe conspiracy. It's the new reality of what Durbin called blatant corruption and self-dealing. When a president can enrich his family and allies while claiming ignorance of his own decisions, we've lost the line between government and grift. The fact that Trump openly said, "My sons are into it," when questioned about the pardon, shows just how normalized that self-dealing has become. It's not shame, it's business. But Durbin went deeper. He pointed to one of the most disturbing trends in American history, the rewriting of January 6th. Trump didn't just minimize what happened, he reversed it entirely by issuing over 1,600 pardons to the very people who stormed the Capitol, hundreds of whom physically assaulted police officers defending democracy. These were not protesters, they were insurrectionists, and now they've been rewarded. Durbin's outrage wasn't performative, it was constitutional. When he said that Trump's DOJ has been purged of career officials who dared to investigate January 6th, he exposed something even darker, a regime of fear and loyalty tests replacing rule of law. The hiring of a known rioter into the DOJ isn't a mistake, it's a message. If you're loyal to Trump, your crimes don't matter. No MAGA left behind, as one Trump official put it. That's not governance, that's authoritarianism disguised as populism. And while the president pardons insurrectionists, his administration unleashes ICE on innocent people, raiding preschools, zip-tying teachers in front of terrified children, and targeting Hispanic communities under the pretense of law and order. Durbin's anger here is deeply personal, and justifiably so. These are his constituents, Americans, being treated like enemies in their own country. When law enforcement becomes politicized, justice collapses. And as Durbin made clear, this isn't about safety, it's about intimidation. Then came his call to action, and it's an essential one. He demanded transparency and accountability, subpoena Jack Smith, bring him before Congress, and put DHS Secretary Kristi Noem under oath. Because without accountability, there's no democracy. What Durbin is saying, in essence, is that oversight isn't optional. It's the Senate's constitutional duty. What's remarkable about this speech is that Durbin didn't just expose corruption, he humanized its cost. Behind every ICE raid, behind every pardoned insurrectionist, behind every corrupt pardon, there are families, American families, who pay the price. He connected the dots between authoritarian abuse at the top and the fear, hunger, and injustice that ripple through communities below. So when Durbin says he's never seen this level of obstruction, he isn't exaggerating. He's sounding an alarm. Because what we're witnessing isn't just another political scandal, it's the dismantling of accountability itself. If you care about democracy, if you care about fairness, this is your moment to stay informed, stay vocal, and stay engaged. Because the truth is, democracy doesn't collapse overnight. It erodes when people stop paying attention. And that's why this message from Durbin matters. He's not just calling out corruption, he's calling on us to demand better.